Hi there, and welcome to the Creative Operations Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Groom, and in this podcast, we'll be talking with creative operations leaders in all kinds of industries, from franchising to finance, from healthcare to hospitality and beyond. We'll be looking to uncover best practices and to see trends that are coming to help you keep your creative operations on brand and on budget at the same time. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Creative Operations Podcast 2.0. I'm your host, Kevin Groom, and I'm very pleased today to have with us Amy Spears. She is the Senior VP of Brand Creative and the Head of Tonic, the in-house agency at Highmark Health. So, Amy, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. Happy to be here.
You betcha. So, the audience always loves to hear a little bit about, your journey into the world of creative operations and brand. Can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up at one of the world's or the nation's largest healthcare systems, including a major Blue Cross insurer?
Sure. So actually, my path originally wasn't really going to be in advertising and marketing. I really didn't even have that on my radar. My dream, I think, growing up was more to be into politics. And that was really the path I was after. Wanted, in my mind, as a younger person, thought that was the way to be able to make a difference and help create and be part of progress. And so when I went to school, I quickly realized that my passion was really all about the art of effective communication. And art of effective communication obviously still applies to politics and influencing, motivating people. But I was really connected more to the advertising, marketing, communication aspect of things, just because there was more creativity, more ideation around that. And it really spun to some of my hobbies that I'd always done on the side, but never thought I would be in a career in advertising and marketing. And so it all started with trying to get your foot in the door out of school, working your way in. And I was actually in an account-like role focused on design, pre-press, and printing for a small mid-sized company down in Austin, Texas. And since then, it's been 20, I think going on 27 years of working hard, being very focused on being surrounded with really talented, smart people, really amazing mentors along the way, seizing opportunities sometimes when there was risk involved and still going for it. And that's really the path that I've had and why I'm still in the advertising marketing industry after all these years. I still love it. I still crave it. And the majority of my career has been on the corporate side of things, always in more of an in-house agency team for the better part of my career. And like I said, I love it. I still crave it, and happy to be where I'm at.
It's great. The story of Tonic I found really fascinating. I take it your head count now, and this is the first time Highmark has really done an in-house agency approach, and you guys are in the triple figures in headcount, as I understand. Is that correct?
We are. Our company had always had some form of more of a creative services model. I think for a couple of decades that had been part of the case, especially from a communications perspective across the company. However, our current CMO, when she joined Highmark Health 7-8 years ago, a few years in, wanted to really build more of a true in-house agency model with more of an investment of the infrastructure, the people, the talent to really centralize all components of the brand and how that manifests and comes to life across all the many touch points, and really centralizing that within the company with this in-house team. And so Tonic, as we're called, was birthed a little over 4 years ago. And we've been really the last 3 years seeing a tremendous amount of growth and leaning all the way into a full vision plan of what an in-house agency model can be when you really leverage the full potential of that investment.
It's an impressive story in a very short period of time. 4 years is not a lot of time to see an organization take shape like that. During the in-house agency forum, your talk on non-negotiables, I found it fascinating and thought we might spend a little bit of time on that. Because as you guys build that culture, and of course, you're competing for talent, and you're building a brand identity for Tonic itself inside a massive organization. What were some of those non-negotiables that came to you as a key to building the culture and achieving the kind of growth that you guys have seen?
Yeah, sure. Well, I want to, because sometimes we all use the term non-negotiables, and I think it's important to just kind of take 1 second to ground ourselves of what I mean when I'm saying that. Non-negotiables just in general really represent our values and our principles as a person, right? And it's what ultimately you're not going to accept anything less from other people and also from yourself. And those non-negotiables just in general are because you've usually found success in them. So you want to continue to practice them. So when you take that into the workplace and with an in-house agency team, along the way, especially in my career, there's been non-negotiables that I've learned and seen, made mistakes from, that's then turned into why I'm like, okay, that is for sure a non-negotiable as we continue to build an in-house agency model. And those are the big time deal breakers. They're the promises that you make to your team, to yourself, and also to all of your colleagues, and to your company. And those non-negotiables are always going to be unique to what the team and the company and the brand is for that company that you're at. And you do it in service of the investment that the company's made in this in-house agency model. Those non-negotiables really allow you to achieve the full potential of what that value can be. And so you're right. Last fall in November at IHAF, I shared the 7 non-negotiables that I've tried to continue to lead with and influence with Head Tonic and what we're building there together as one team.
Yeah. I spent some time in my past as a copywriter in the healthcare environment. And one of the things I found about working with medical professionals in particular is the dedication to science is sometimes a little bit at odds with the simplicity and the swiftness that you need in marketing communications. Is that kind of creative tension part of that non-negotiable discussion?
Yes, that goes into the non-negotiables about one of the first ones that I often talk about is owning the brand. And what I mean by that is when we say own or lead the brand, obviously you don't just own the brand within an agency. Brand is what everyone in a company, anyone that touches or creates, influences the customer, member, patient experience is part of that. And so when we're trying to be good stewards of that, and demonstrate what that means for our brand identity, for how our brand shows up. The simplicity aspect of that is definitely a key tenet of our brand and who we are and how we need to show up. And when we talk about simplicity within the health industry, that's where it's more than just taking the complexity out of the customer experience. Every brand right now, no customer wants to be associated with a complex brand, right? We're all trying ways to simplify our lives, not make them more complex. So in the health industry, there's an extra richness and meaning behind simplicity, which is all about health literacy as well. And really, allowing the outcomes of that to improve by understanding the conditions, the treatments, the next steps to take as a member or as a patient. And so that is when you're talking about copywriting, it's the copywriting and the design aspects. It's all parts of it, but really thinking through the lens of both simplicity and health literacy in the health industry. And so that takes a higher touch, and that tension, I think, is a healthy tension that happens with all of the customer experiences that are being created. But our whole company, not just the in-house team, is very focused on the belief of simplicity being a key part of our brand. And so that goes a long way when we're all kind of rowing in the same direction, getting after the same goal. So you're right. It is part of copywriting and there's a healthy tension, but it's a good tension because we're all bought into that vision together.
Yeah. So the notion of creative presentations to healthcare professionals, and I would think, especially in senior leadership, you must have quite a an interesting crew around a table. Do you guys find yourselves as an in-house agency really able to lead with the creative, or is it a lot of back and forth to get the sort of the medical and technical aspects correct? Or do you really find that the brand has such momentum that you find approvals easier to acquire and stay on brand voice, or is it a particular challenge?
No, I mean, it's not a standout challenge in my mind because it's not just our team or just within marketing. The customer experience is a focus for everyone across our enterprise, so all of our business partners. So when you're always focused on what the customer, member, patient experience is going to be, and we all have a common belief of what our key tenets are of our brand, which is all focused on customer experience, that allows you to have the right dialogue, the right healthy debate, the right, back and forth to really get at the best experience that you're creating, whatever that, is at hand at that moment that we're talking about or working on. So I wouldn't say it's an arduous task when it gets to getting everyone on the same page with what we're doing about the brand, because that's all rooted in what we're getting after from the customer experience, which also gets back to what they want. And so that makes it that makes the conversation a lot easier when you have everyone rooted in the customer experience, and that experience is based upon what the customer desires. So I think that takes out friction.
That's great. That's great to hear. In terms of the organization of Tonic, are you guys centrally located, or are you distributed across your entire kind of marketing footprint? And, is the distributed model a big part for you guys of your day-to-day operations?
When you mean distributed, you mean physically distributed, like where people are located, or you mean how we are centralized in the organization?
I actually meant physically, geographically.
Geographically, yes. So we are, through the last few years of tremendous growth of the team, we have team members located across the country. So yes, we have probably the majority are closer to our corporate headquarters, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But we have team members from California, Texas, all along the East Coast. So, and then throughout the Midwest. So we're really making it work still. And when I say making it work, I don't mean to make it sound like it's not working and we're having to work extra hard to make it work. It's actually been a huge success story for our team. And that's why we still continued to hire the very best talent across the country and not feel kind of tied to only the Pittsburgh region.
Yeah, that's really nice thing too, to be able to build a team that without worrying about the geo seems great. A lot of the times in our audience, we hear great interest in what the kind of project management, MarTech, and creative stacks are that allow you to achieve that blend of geographic distribution, but team cohesiveness. Can you tell us a little bit about, since the founding of Tonic, how that's evolved for you guys, just from an operational point of view?
Sure. From an operational standpoint, when I say operations, it's definitely not all technology that's enabled us to do this. It's also, key engagement moments of when meetings occur, the types of meetings, what the processes are in between those. And also the technology to support that, of course, to be able to have consistent virtual meetings whenever we need them. But there's also more components to making it successful. We have a commitment to certain working norms that everyone is aware of and works together towards. We also have within both of our sub teams across Tonic, as well as across the full team of Tonic, many intentional moments of connection to create an environment where there's a culture that people feel like they're part of, and that even if someone is out in California, they need to feel connected, especially with the onboarding experience and then the continued team atmosphere. And so when we talk about how we operationalize that, it is technology. It's also process and a clear kind of meeting or forum setup that works. And then also really intentional activities that are planned within sub-teams and across the full group to keep that culture alive and to keep it a team that people feel connected on and want to be part of.
It's great. It's, what we have seen in talking with other folks on the in-house agency side, the momentum toward in-house has been going on for, I would think, a couple of decades. Yeah. And it almost feels to me like we've now reached a point where the old divide between in-house and out-of-house has really softened. It's almost more of a gray area between the two as opposed to a hard line. Do you guys at Tonic find yourself working with lots of external agencies as well and kind of plugging them in as time goes by, and then, on more of a project basis or relationship basis?
We do. And that's actually one of the non-negotiables as well, as far as really operating as agencies are a true extension of the team. In my time as in the in-house agency arena, we'll say, which has been double decades now, there's always been that friction point at times where they're almost left to compete. And what we aim to do on a daily basis is the antithesis of that. It really is more of an extension of the team, an extended partner. And that is super easy to say, and it's not always easy to achieve. And so that really gets back to culture and setting expectations and demonstrating what that means and feels like with those external partners. No matter if it's a creative agency extension of the team, a production extension of the team, even a technology plugin as needed. And that's really how we operate. That is a key part. And our agency partners, we also have to clearly set those expectations too. And it's not easy always, because sometimes even just the day-to-day practical part of what that means when you're creating a new concept and you're used to presenting that to like a client, but yet what you're working on is a common goal to have the very best work out in the marketplace. And we're all owning that together to build the brand. It changes those dynamics a bit, because now you are reviewing the work and you're presenting the work, but everyone's thinking about it collectively as a shared body of work that needs to perform and that all of our goals are aligned to. And so that's why I think it's hard for it when we're always saying, oh, yes, they're an extension of the team. And we use that a lot in our in-house industry, I know, across the board. To actually get that to work that way, it takes a lot of work and takes a lot of intentionality, but it's definitely worth it in the end, because the product and the culture are also better.
Yeah. It's so interesting that in a previous experience, I worked a lot with in-house counsel and external law firms. And in some, much the same way, at least in the early days when we began to see that, there was friction between the two. As time went by, the in-house counsel became sort of the quarterback, and the coordinator of many different expertise and disciplines. It took decades, multiple decades, I think. But we've begun to see that relationship really smooth out to the benefit of the organizations and also the folks working in those various units. And it feels to me like we're still early days of as many years as we've seen in-house, taking on a larger share. We're still early days in terms of the cultural change. And it sounds like you guys are kind of on the cutting edge of that trend, which is great. I would also say in all these questions that I've been asking you today, as a technologist, we tend to focus on the technology first. You sort of steered us toward the human aspect, as being the most important part. And it seems to me that it fits really well with what your guys' mission is, the larger organization, that human mission. So it very much comes through.
Well, I take that as a huge compliment. So thank you for that. That's really how we are, and a huge compliment on behalf of the team, because that really is how we aim to operate. I mean, there's an intention behind that when you think about it, because it gets back to recruitment too. A lot of us are in the business because of the emotion and the passion and the creativity behind the ideas. And so you want to be part of a team that really is focused more on the human factor, and those aspects of how do you operate as a group. And I don't want to make it sound like we get it all the way to bright every single day, but we aim to get it all the way to bright at least as many days as possible. And that's why we're really focused on the culture of the team just as much as more of the expected operational aspects.
It's if I were in my copywriting days, I'd be looking at this for sure, because it sounds like less of the, especially here, we are based in New York, and the agency culture in New York, the external agency culture was very much one of grow and shrink, and a sort of an uncertainty I think, that was stressful as a creative. And especially when, when you were only as good as your last, comp. And it seems to me that maintaining a commitment to quality without creating the stress that comes from the old days, the madman days of the advertising industry, is a delicate balance to strike. And certainly you guys seem like you're doing that. And again, 4 years, 5 years is, just a whisper of time for something like this to take shape. So it's a great story to hear. And thank you for spending some time with us today and telling us that. So guys, next time on the Creative Operations podcast, look for us to dive deeper into the in-house agency angle. And Amy, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kevin.